Oh, the Dark Tower. The Dark Tower. The Dark Tower. I don't know anything about the Dark Tower. And after having seen the movie, I still don't really know anything about the Dark Tower. This is not what fans of the books would have wanted, and that comes from someone who has not read any of the books, knows next to nothing about the books. Here's what I know to give you kind of, I guess, my backstory. I know my friends who love Stephen King and love the Dark Tower series have compared it in scope to The Lord of the Rings. Okay. I know that in the books, apparently, the gunslinger who Idris Elba plays is supposed to be white. But that's not really a huge factor in the movie. Apparently, that does actually come into play at some point in the books, if I'm not mistaken, due to a racist side character, like a side character that has split personalities, and one of them is racist against white people. I hope that's right. I know that the series kind of bridges, since it deals with alternate dimensions or universes, it does bridge a lot of things in other Stephen King novels, because why not? You know, if you can travel throughout different dimensions and universes, you might as well, travel to whatever dimension, The Shining or It takes place in. And this movie in particular has had a very, very fucking messy history. I don't know the full history behind it. It's been a while since I've read up on it because I've been hearing about the Dark Tower, for such a long time. I know J.J. Abrams was set to be involved at some point in making a film or a series of films, at least. I know the closest we got to it was after J.J. Abrams, when Ron Howard stepped up. And at that time, I think it was supposed to be like a trilogy of movies, but with a TV show taking place in between each movie, like one season in between movies 1 and 2, and then another season in between movies 2 and 3, to help flesh out the universe. Sounds great in theory, if it was something that deserved to be fleshed out. Now, from what I can tell from this movie, there's nothing to be fleshed out of any interest. But again, that's probably the movie's fault. And where it finally landed was this, I believe, Danish filmmaker, Nikolai Arcel, whose movies I've never seen any of his movies, so I don't know anything about him. He kind of finished his version of the movie late last year in 2016, and test audiences really didn't like it. So they went back and did a lot of reshoots to help flesh out the characters, I guess. But anyway, what we're left with is a movie that's just over 90 minutes long. And I'm not the kind of person who judges a film based on their runtime. I don't think a longer movie means a better movie by any means. In fact, I applaud movies that can stay under 2 hours. I think Guillermo del Toro is a filmmaker who kind of prides himself in making, keeping to the 2-hour experience. Not everything has to be fucking Return of the King. So here's this plot of this really stupid movie. There's a kid in New York who keeps dreaming about this other place, which I believe we come to call Midworld. So another dimension or what have you. Another world, whatever. And he keeps dreaming about this bad guy, played by Matthew McConaughey, called the Man in Black. And this Man in Black is using children who have a psychic ability called Shine, which I believe is a reference to The Shining. It's all coming together. But basically, he's using these kids because he has a machine built that focuses their shine to shoot a giant fucking Death Star laser over at the Dark Tower. There we go. And what does this Dark Tower do? Apparently, it basically protects worlds from being invaded by giant monsters, I guess. How it does that, I don't know. But that's it. That's kind of all we're really given, in the movie. And apparently Midworld's already been fucked. It's kind of like a wasteland of sorts. But Man in Black wants to get to New York because that's what the screenplay says he has to do. This kid eventually stumbles upon a portal to Midworld. So he fucking Narnia's his way to Midworld and runs into the gunslinger, played by Idris Elba. And apparently the gunslingers were protectors of the Dark Tower. They're pretty much all dead. I guess a war happened of some sort. We never see this cool war. In fact, while we're rewriting this stupid fucking movie, it would have been great if the movie opened with kind of like a Lord of the Rings-esque prologue, where we got to see this battle for the Dark Tower, because some sort of battle took place. I don't know the armies at play. You never see any of it. In fact, one of the problems with this film is that the scope is so limited. You see very little of anything. But, if they would have showed us that prologue, that would have been really cool, and it would have kind of given us an idea of maybe what to expect. Instead, we're just kind of told. We never see any battle. The most we ever see is like 2 gunslingers and the Man in Black. And that's it, told in like a flashback form. It's not very exciting. None of the action here is very well done, by the way. So reluctantly, the gunslinger teams up with this kid because he wants revenge on the Man in Black. The Man in Black killed his father. Prepare to die. So in order for the gunslinger to track down the Man in Black, they have to travel to Earth. They have to take a portal from Midworld to Earth, and then Earth back to Midworld, because that's shorter than just going to the bad guy's place in Midworld. Whatever. And I think some of the more fun sequences in the movie do take place on Earth because, it's that fish out of water story. Although with the gunslinger going to Earth, you think he'd want to take advantage of, more modern, I guess, weapons. Instead, he just gets bullets. Like, it would have been great to see him, get a shotgun and assault rifle and all sorts of cool stuff. Walk in like the Terminator and like ask for a bunch of stuff. I don't know. That's just me. There's a shootout of some sort that's boring as hell, and there's like the final showdown, spoilers, between the gunslinger and the Man in Black. And the really disappointing thing about this, it's a lame showdown, and they show it in the trailer. Like when you see them fighting together, that's the final showdown in the movie, and it's a little bit longer, but it's not any more impressive. That's kind of the movie, It feels like kind of like a made-for-TV, like Sci-Fi Channel movie. It's very much almost like a young adult, adaptation, like Percy Jackson. That's what this movie. This fucking movie's Percy Jackson. It's really bad. I don't know the rating. It felt like a PG-13 at most to me, unless I'm forgetting some F-bombs or something. But it was pretty damn tame too. Not that it needs to be rated R, but whenever somebody who was a fan of the series would tell me about it, it sounded like, something really gritty and compelling, at least that's the picture they painted for me. And the gunslinger, at least looking off the covers of the Stephen King books, looks like a riff on, Clint Eastwood, and I guess having just watched, Sergio Leone's The Man with No Name trilogy or Dollars trilogy, and seeing how you can do that anti-hero, they don't capture any of that at all here. It's the characters are so poorly done, and I love Idris Elba. He's like the ultimate badass. He's a lot of fun to watch on screen, but they don't give him shit to work with here. It's really disappointing. And Matthew McConaughey, always a fun actor, usually. And him playing a villain seems really exciting, and he's basically like an evil Professor X, from the X-Men here. But like, you never get a sense of him having any real fun, or like what's his purpose? Why does he do what he do? Why does he do what he do? Why does he do what he does? Does he take enjoyment out of it? He seems to kill a lot of people at will. So it would be interesting to see a little more insight into his character. Why does he seem to hate like the human race or people in general? What's really driving him? It would be nice to see that, and at least have some fun with the character. Otherwise, there's not really a lot of tension. And we know the gunslinger can resist his magics, as the movie fucking says. But why? So the movie fucking ends, and the story is pretty much wrapped up, except the gunslinger's like, hey kid, everyone you know and love here is dead. Come with me. And that's kind of like, I guess, the jumping off point into something else. I don't know. Like, I don't really know what more needs to be said about this series that the movie shows us. Like, there was nothing of any interest going on in this movie. It was just really dull. The sound design was really bad. I mean, considering that we're watching the gunslinger shoot the same 2 guns the entire movie, you really got to give it, I guess, somewhat of an iconic sound and fun sound and mix it up a little bit. It sounds like they use the same exact tone and sound for every single scene in the movie, and it gets old, and it's dull, and it's flat. You know, this is an action movie, and you want those sounds to really pop. You know, go watch Terminator 2 and listen to how those gun sounds pop. You know, you got to give us something to work with. This is a fucking dull movie. There's nothing going on. I mean, it's mercifully short, so it's like a quick 90 minutes. You know, it's I guess to rent if you're interested, but I mean, maybe it's like for fans just to see an exercise on how not to do a Stephen King movie. But we have plenty of exercises on those. You know, it was just not good. It's not good, but you know, whatever. If anything, like, it kind of got me interested in checking out the series to see what was so special about it to begin with, that somebody, you know, it took them this long to make a movie. But I'll warn you right now, whatever was special about that series, none of it is in this movie whatsoever.